Hello, Ms. Addison. We are looking at two documents. One of them is our primary document, which is the letter from Birmingham Jail. But it is the response to what? The letter of the eighth clergyman to Dr. Martin Luther King. But historically, it's a response to what?
Segregation.
Segregation. Segregation. Of who? Like minorities versus the majority. No. All right. So the setting of this place is where? Birmingham, Alabama. Now, why is Dr. King in jail?
Protesting without a permit.
Protesting without a permit.
I read that letter.
Protesting without a permit. Now, what infringement, civil liberties infringement would that be?
The first right to assembly.
The right to assemble. So he's got a good challenge, hasn't he? Has anybody started that Great Debaters thing?
I was trying to find it last night, but it said I had to rent it.
Really? Oh, even the link that it was on the homework?
Oh no, I was just doing it on my TV.
Okay, try the link on the.
Was that on
agenda.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, I can just look it up on YouTube.
But I want to tell you,
Okay.
When I was going to put that out for my students who were absent so they could watch the segment that they missed, it wouldn't let them. So maybe there's something unique about that link. But okay, so the right of assembly. What else of the civil liberties might this impede or infringe upon?
Maybe we can hear from Drew on this one.
Maybe Drew. Other than the right of assembly that's being denied them here, what other civil liberty might be infringed upon? They might be deprived of. The 14th Amendment, I think. The 14th, yeah, it's already there. Yeah, the 14th Amendment of equality, equal protection under the laws. Did the reading? I thought that one of those readings showed the dogs attacking non-violent.
Yeah, it said 6. Hold on, I'll find it.
What is it? Okay.
Yeah, it talks about the violent dogs fighting 6 unarmed, non-violent black people.
Yeah. Negroes. Is that what he said?
Yes.
Don't use the N word. I know it's hard to say. I mean, I was just watching a video and it says, it said, niggers keep out. And I just cringed. What? Oh, we're recording. It's okay. It's okay. But guys, during this time period, you know, I'm a 9-year-old, 9 to 12-year-old, and looking at Oklahoma, and you know, I didn't know about the racial riot that led to murdering several people in Tulsa. I'd never heard of it. Why? Well, probably the news agencies there within our state didn't want that to be really common knowledge. I don't know. Maybe a 9-year-old wasn't paying that much attention. However, I found my love for government and politics and all that stuff with my grandfather, watching the news with him every day Walter Cronkite at 5:30 in the afternoon on CBS. And he would close his broadcast. And that's the way it is this 6th day of June, 1968. You know, that's the way he closed it out. Every broadcast. I thought everything he said was true. However, I want to tell you, the news at that time, politically, I thought was very unbiased compared to today. All right, we're not going to get there. Now, where's my sheet? I've covered it up here. Okay. What would you say in the letter to Martin Luther King from those 8 clergymen? What is the basic thesis of their letter?
I think the peaceful protest should stop because it was still interrupting things, and instead they should just have meetings.
Okay, the peaceful protest should stop and then have a meeting of this. Had they, in response to Dr. King's letter to them, did he indicate that there had ever been any type of movement towards that? I mean, peaceful discussion among community leaders to do this.
Yes.
He did, and how did he say?
When he said they would remove the signs from the stores,
And they just didn't do that.
And they didn't do that,
yeah,
but they agreed to do it. Okay. Any other examples?
Xander's not another one he's looking for.
He said the political leaders consistently refused to engage in good faith negotiation.
Okay. So the leaders just refused to
They promised stuff and wouldn't follow through.
promise stuff and wouldn't follow through. All right. What was the thesis of the Birmingham jail letter?
That the peaceful protests were done because there could be no negotiation. That they tried to and it didn't work, and so now we're in jail because we peacefully protested.
Okay. So being in jail was going to produce what type of outcome, hopefully?
Legal decision.
Legal change in policy? Or maybe, I mean, that takes too long, doesn't it? So what's the immediate hope of Dr. King? Okay. Now that's a little bit more immediate. What could be that same day, next week effect of that? For change. What could this movement do for the immediate? And all of y'all are right. Okay. You're right. That takes time. He says we can't wait, doesn't he? We're done waiting, right? So what's the immediate hopeful outcome? Miss Mosier? I know you know.
I'm not positive.
You want me to refill your water cup?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm just gonna, yeah.
Miss Wheeler?
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I know, but these questions are just from having read.
Critical thing. Yeah,
But if you like to, that's fine.
the page is like 30, so.
Because guys, what we are looking at here is the traditional values established in what document? What document is the political culture of America? It's the bedrock for the, I need to say the bedrock. The Declaration of Independence. Now, what phrases in the Declaration of Independence? Huh?
We the people.
Okay, that's the preamble of the Constitution. However, that would be something else to go.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yeah, as John Locke would say. Okay, great. Now, this right to, that everybody has the right to life, liberty, and property, Eli. That's given to us by law in the Constitution, isn't it? But what law is that? The right of life, liberty, and property of Mr. John Locke. We call those what kind of rights?
Natural rights.
Natural rights. They are God-given rights. Because the N in natural, guys, is always capitalized back during that time, reading it of documents during that time period. They were God-given rights. Okay? So Dr. King is saying that civil disobedience in the form of nonviolent protest is necessary for segregation in Birmingham to change. It's necessary. All right? Now, y'all mentioned to me the clergymen. They wanted to leave change to talking it out, right? I mean, community meetings and talking it out. That sounds like a good idea. Is that going to be possible? But wait a second. Government in America is we the people involved in this thing. And government is an institution created by men, a method to be ruled by men for the protection of our rights. So what's wrong with the government? Whether it be in the city of Alabama or the state of Alabama or the state of the country of the United States.
Like at that time?
Yeah, at that time. Prejudice? Certainly. What faces did we see in government?
Only white people.
Only white male. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much, you know. Now, and did y'all know that in most of the major cities in the United States, we have females as executives of these large jurisdictions? Is there anything wrong with that? Ladies? No. I'm getting sidetracked here. No. In the most liberal African American ladies, is there anything wrong with that? But we've got to judge how well it's working, huh? So, well, let's not go there. How is government supposed to be independent? Impartial? Dr. King will kind of explain that in his letter. How is government supposed to be impartial? Because what are they supposed to do? Okay. It's to set up laws for the protection of all people. Some of them, George Washington would phrase it as for the common good. For the common good, in quotations. And that meant that these laws, Dr. King, I'm about to give the answer to my next question. Dr. King calls those what type of laws? The ones, just laws. Exactly, just laws. And just laws do what? What do just laws do? And how do they come about? Because this really is an argument over just laws versus the opposite of that is what? Unjust laws. Okay. So, what would be the characteristics of a just law? And I said characteristics. And what would it do for us?
Do for us?
Yeah. Well, no. Go ahead and start, and then I'll prod you some more.
I was just gonna say in the thing it says that it squares with the moral law or the law of God.
Just laws square with the law of God. So, Eli, does the law of God show a respecter of persons? Is it a respecter of persons? Well, I'm not saying does it respect all persons. Okay, yeah, okay. All persons, I mean, he doesn't favor this people group over this one or anything. Okay, he doesn't. Do those type of laws build up a community?
Yeah.
And create a community that encourages one another?
Yes.
It builds people up, right? And building people up helps us to bring, I guess this is a AP concept of liberty and order. Okay. In fact, the unit is called Liberty and Order. I've got it on there as the civil rights and civil liberties thing, but the unit calls it Liberty and Order. And isn't that what it's about? I mean, we enjoy the maximum amount of liberty, and then the order, the implementation of law is to bring about order in a community we'd all thrive. Okay. So what are the characteristics of unjust laws?
It's a code that is out of harmony with moral law.
A code without a moral law because God wants to lift everybody up. So unjust laws do what?
Degrade human personality.
They degrade. They degrade human beings. No. It's out of harmony with natural law. It distorts the soul. It creates inequality. So segregation laws violated the moral code, didn't it? Who was the intended audience of the clergyman's letter? It's obvious for one, but there's another audience. What's the obvious answer? Yeah, Dr. King. And, well, all right, since we're there, why did they target King? What were some of the arguments that they were holding that in King's in jail? What are some of the arguments about him even being there?
Well, he was one of the leaders of a group called the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Okay.
Which was placed in Atlanta, Georgia. So he went down to Birmingham.
Oh, so he's not an official of Birmingham, a pastor of Birmingham, or anything like that. He's an outsider. What's the problem with that? Coming down here and stirring up trouble in our town. Ooh. So, what was Dr. King's answer? I'm sorry, every year I get more and more into this document. I just love it. Did y'all enjoy reading it?
Yeah.
It's long, isn't it? But it is, I mean, what? And you know what he did? Now, it's my understanding that he wasn't allowed a whole lot in his jail cell, but somebody slipped him a newspaper and an ink pen, and he wrote this in the margins of the newspaper. And then the next visitor, he gave it back to them, and they published it. All right. But man, that was so good. Now I lost my train of thought. Oh, we're on the intended audience of the letter of the clergyman. Who else is the intended audience?
The other protesters.
Do what?
The other protesters.
Okay, the literate African Americans, not to say that the majority of them are illiterate, but those that were studied and thinking like Dr. King in their area, and the civil rights leaders anywhere. Okay. So what were they trying to do? What were they trying to avoid? I mean, with this thing here, what are they trying to do? What are they trying to avoid? The clergymen. What were they afraid of?
Stop the protests without violence.
Stop the protests without violence. Okay. But don't they have egg on their face? Because hasn't violence by the police in Birmingham already occurred?
Yes.
No, the dog thing. All right. Oh, by the way, this just popped into my head. Probably the equal protection of the law, not only that, but due process of law, because Dr. King was arrested for violating a city ordinance. Is 2 or 3 days in jail. 2 or 3 days in jail. Just, fair for marching without a protest? No. No. What's Dr. King's belief about just laws? Okay, I mean, what is his attitude about just laws that's gone through the right process and that sort of stuff?
Just laws uplifts human personality.
Just laws uplifts human personality. What else? Gives everybody dignity, doesn't it? So would you say that he favors just laws? And that he holds anybody that violates just laws accountable to the government or to the judicial system? Would you say he would believe that or not? I believe that. Oh gosh, if y'all had just watched The Great Debaters. But now when it comes to unjust laws, what does Dr. King think, Ms. Mosier? Great coffee cup. This where? Right there. Oh. Miss Wheeler's thinking real hard. Miss Wheeler, what's that?
I'm trying to figure out what she's doing. She's just messing with her.
I'm not hearing you, though. I can't get you.
It won't.
Have you forgot the question?
Yeah, I did.
I'm sorry.
What's Dr. King's stance about unjust laws?
He said an unjust law is code inflicted upon a minority, which that minority had no part in enacting or creating.
Oh, wait a second here. I like that answer, don't you, Drew? I mean, that's the Mosier coming out, isn't it? Her side of the Mosiers? Yeah. Let's say that again, sweetheart.
An unjust law is a code inflicted upon a minority, which that minority had no part in acting or creating.
That's really good.
Yeah.
If a just law is put in there, it's through lawmakers elected by the people to create laws to benefit all of society. But she's saying that this situation is on a local level here, but a state level in Alabama and probably throughout all of the Jim Crow South. They have made laws that bound people if we the people. If we're in a democracy and we exclude them from the power and the say-so, the input on laws, maybe we should take a look at that. We've got a great argument here. That is a wonderful argument, and an argument of the essay, wouldn't it be? Oh. Any other comments on that idea or questions about that idea? Okay. Now, my instructions were to highlight. Let me see if there's anything else. King says it's the duty to break unjust laws and break them for the purpose of what's the big purpose? In India, when Gandhi did this, guys, in civil disobedience, they were arresting thousands of people. They didn't have capacity to hold in jail all that were breaking the unjust law, civil disobedience. And if they were to do that today, on the unjust laws, they'd have to have a train, a paddy wagon train to load up everybody and take them to jail. We don't have room for that. So what's going to be the result of that? It's going to be big news. It's going to be big news. So King used the reasoning on breaking unjust laws is we have appealed to y'all to meet and discuss this and to stop this degrading stuff. And yet, white people making laws continue to uphold laws that degrade people. And the higher standard, the moral law, this is unjust. So since we can't do this locally, maybe it will draw attention nationally and we get about change. We bring about change. Does that make sense? Now, we're not in the unit. We're going to be working independently in the unit on policy change. But I want y'all to keep this in mind right here. Did Dr. King and this nonviolence movement enact change in policy? Did it bring about change in policy? When I say policy, I mean laws. Did it do that? Now you're reading. If you're reading the chapter, you should say yes and tell me exactly how it's done. With the test on Monday, we might need to read the chapter. Did this enact change?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I thought we did too, but we are where we need to be. So. Are you saying you procrastinated about this? Well, you're looking at 12 other people that's done the same thing. You should have been leading these people in the right direction. At break, you should have been reading out of the book, so Eli would read out of the book. Eli's probably read, haven't you? Did
He's lying to you, Mr. Bill. Come on now.
Put it on the bottom.
Lord forgive me for the students that I have wanted to kill and the ones that I'm about.
I think it starts with true and ends with true.
Who's gonna answer the questions if I'm dead?
All right. I wanted you to identify the arguments, the contrast here. Compare and contrast Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail to that of a clergyman. So what did y'all highlight and mark that we need to consider or say something about or note a contrast of? Miss Price.
I put that whatever that they urge the public to remain calm and continue to protect the law enforcement and to remain calm and continue to protect their speech from violence. But then in the letter from Birmingham, it says that there lists reasons why he can't agree with that statement because of what the law enforcement has done to black people.
Can you give some examples?
Like the angry violent dogs.
The violent dogs.
Their open and inhuman treatment of people black people in the jail, and then they would push and curse old women and young girls, and then they would slap and kick young old men and young boys.
Okay. Now, guys, it's been a while since I thought about some of this, but where did the fire hoses come down on protesters?
In the street, I saw that on the active budget.
On the actively learn? Okay. All right. Was that the sit-in? That wasn't the sit-in. Was that the Montgomery bus boycotts?
I can't remember. I just remember they showed a picture of it and it said,
I think it would. It looked like they were marching down the street.
Okay. Yeah. And they had these freedom marches all throughout the big cities of the South. They tended to concentrate in Alabama. And I wish I had that excerpt up, but Governor George Wallace says, there is segregation today, there will be segregation tomorrow, and there will be segregation always. And then confronting the rulings of the court, he and his staff get in front of the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa and says, no, Africa, you will have to drive over my dead body before an African American goes to the University of Alabama. Can you imagine? That is so far removed from y'all. But it is so, I remember this. I remember the news talking, old Walker reporting. It's just crazy. There was a sign where I went to college on both ends of town, and it said, if you're black, don't let the sun set on your back. Yeah. Now, there is a regional college in Durant, Oklahoma that I attended. And when they started accepting black students, that was the first time black people lived in Durant, Oklahoma. Now, they lived on the outskirts, maybe, okay, but not within the city limits. There were signs on the entrances to Greenville, Texas. Have y'all driven through Greenville, Texas? It's a kind of a suburb of Dallas now. But it said, home of the blackest land and the whitest people. Degrading. Degrading.
It's just crazy. What do they mean by the blackest land?
Oh, that is black, tight, rich farmland. It's black as your hair.
So
when
they're
you
talking
turn
about like
it
the
over.
soil.
The soil, yeah.
Oh,
So, I'm sorry. I'm glad you made that differentiation because I would say black land. But it means a whole lot to cotton farmers. Boy, if you had a black land farm, you were going to get 2 or 3 bales of an acre to an acre in a black land farm. It's good.
That is pretty good.
All right.
Yeah.
She pointed out one. I need another one. Great job. Comparison contrast.
I got you.
You got me?
Well, when they said in the clergyman letter that their protests were untimely,
Okay.
on page 2, paragraph 3, he responds. Let me read it in my head for a second. So they said, like, why didn't you give the new administration time to act? Like when they got the new, I don't know who it was, like governor or something, mayor. I don't know.
He was the mayor.
Yeah. So the only answer that I can give to this inquiry is that the new administration must be prodded about as much as the outgoing one before it acts.
So the old one didn't act on it, and it's time with the new man coming in. Here's his opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and they were like, "Why didn't you like?" Because they started like the day after the election. They started like the protest.
Okay, and guys, somewhere in the reading, they were talking about maybe doing this during Easter, and I think they said, look, if we don't want to disrupt business. Was that in this letter?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
They
Oh.
said,
Uh-huh.
he said, there were multiple like times that they planned to do it and pushed it back because they're trying to be like respectful and let things keep processing.
That sounds more like Jesus to me than not done it to you. Okay. All right, well, you've got some stuff written down there, Miss Creel. What have you got?
For the views of law, I contrasted MLK's
Go ahead.
MLK's belief that the law should serve everyone equally, and the clergymen, they said they recognize a problem but believe everyone should stand down. And I just thought that the clergymen want the movement to follow the laws, but they're really like protesting the laws because they're not serving them, so they're wanting to follow the same laws that they're protesting.
Okay. All right.
I forgot to do it.
What? We're, that boyfriend of yours. I don't know, but you were probably.
I was not with him.
Sorry.
She forgot to do it. Yes. Ms. Gibson.
Oh, you won't.
Yeah.
Okay. The clergyman said that the public events has said that they should get a new, constructive, and realistic approach to the racial problems. And Martin Luther King came back and was like, "Just talking isn't working because y'all aren't listening."
Look.
Well, mine kind of goes with everyone's, but they were,
She disagrees with them.
no, like it's kind of like that, but it's kind of more because he said that like, or the clergyman said like recent public event or recent public events have given indication that we all have opportunity for a new, constructive, and realistic approach to racial problems. And Martin Luther King said that like they're basically asking like why direct actions, like why the sit-ins, why the protests. And he said nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and establish such great in a community that has consistently refused to negotiate this force to confront the issue They said there's a type of constructive nonviolent intention that's necessary.
Okay. We need nonviolent intention to get people at the table. Okay? To get people at the table. Is it with a bad grade and a mad mom? It can't be handled at the dinner table.
Boy, that's just talking about
They get Mrs. Stokes in on it.
maybe like a video that's banging.
Let's get something done. All right, Miss Wheeler. Okay, we're doing the compare contrast issues where Dr. King has come back against one of the arguments made in the or proposals made in the clergy letter. While she's thinking,
I just put that the clergymen don't think that any direct action needs to be taken immediately, and they should just kind of wait on it. And, you know,
yeah, tell me about the beautiful orientation or I say that word. Not orientation, oration, I guess. Oratory response to Mr. Oh, oh my God.
Change the subject.
Yes. Well, what you're going to need to talk.
I got a lot to talk about.
Okay, well, yeah, you probably need that unless you've got it in the top of your head.
The bell's about to ring, man.
You see, I'm all spitting for you.
Okay, what was King's remark to that?
he just believes that direct action should be taken since nothing that he's ever done has been working.
Yeah, but how did he go on and explain this weight and make his case about weight?
I don't know. I did this morning.
You did it this morning. Anybody want to help her on the weight
Yeah,
idea?
I got you.
Okay.
For years now, I've heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with a piercing familiarity. That word. This wait has almost meant never.
Almost meant never.
So when they're saying wait, it's never happened. We have waited for more than 340 years
Oh, yeah. We
for our God-given and constitutional rights.
given constitutional rights. Mr. Mosher, the brilliance of your analytical thinking, what did you come up with?
Well, I'm not add on to what Mason said. They claimed it was untimely with the time of their actions. And Martin Luther King says, there comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over and men are no longer willing to be punished into an abyss of injustice where they experience the bleakness of corroding despair. And I hope you sirs can understand a legitimate and unavoidable impatience. So he's like pretty much saying the time's up. We gotta do something now. Like, there's no more waiting.
Eli.
I didn't do it. I forgot about it.
Oh my God. He gets a pass though because he's
Oh.
over.
I am ordering 60 gallons of syrup
About that.
and 50 goose down pillows. And we're going to rip those pillows up and dip them in the barrel of syrup and feather them. We're not doing
Eli,
Who's first?
Yeah.
tar feathered.
I did.
Yeah.
This morning.
Emery. And then we'll tar and feather just you from the head up. I mean, down. I mean, from the neck up. Is what I meant. Okay. All right. You, sweetheart.
I know. I'm looking for something else that hasn't been. Shoot, because most everything I have is all.
Time's getting close. Isn't it?
I got something.
Yeah.
So at the top of page 2, it talks about they delayed their non-violent witnessing until after the runoff. So like the
It wouldn't interfere in the
yeah,
election.
so like the election couldn't be used to cloud the issues like going on. So if they're doing this and they got an election going, nobody would be looking at them.
Because do you see why the word doctor is in front of Dr. Martin Luther King's name?
How do you get that word?
Well, he went to college and got a PhD degree.
Oh, and like after or wait, I can't get.
Yeah, huh?
What is his degree in?
I don't know, probably philosophy. But guys, I mean, it might have been in Bible.
There's a lot of
It might have been in divine seminary. Okay, now tell me something, guys. What does he make the appeal to these clergymen? He's a clergyman himself. So how does he pull the fact that I'm a fellow clergyman, but yet you're white, I'm black? How does he pull that? Pull it off? Or what does he make his argument about? Does he pull in any biblical characters?
Oh yeah, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
He mentions them?
Yes.
He used biblical reference. And the three wise men, he used the three wise. Did he use the three wise? Or, I don't know.
Yeah, they definitely.
Amos was on there.
In this, does he make an appeal that maybe Jesus and the disciples at that time period were radicals? Does the clergy mean, he kind of referred to these outside leaders as radicals? Am I thinking of the same thing?
I think he used examples of like the Jews and the Gentiles.
Okay. These people,
It's me.
how come they're out early? We're supposed to be teaching Bell.
If they come to
They're just ready for their debate.
Oh yeah, he
Can we
uses
sit?
examples.
Can we watch?
I'll be back.
Like love your enemies, bless them that curse you, pray for them that despitefully use you. Was not Amos an extremist for justice?
Amos.
Same thing.
Okay. That's what I was hoping that somebody would bring up right there. They believe in the same God. They believe in the same ethical laws. Nice.
These clowns out of here.
So, why doesn't this apply to everyone? It's kind of like, you're sinning, I'm bringing it to light, I'm expecting a repentance, Xander. You better repent. Because everybody can see you're in the wrong.
Mr. Bill, did you spill that on your shirt this morning?
I went to the break room. This is a small cup. I said, I believe I'll get me a half a cup of coffee. And Coach Wilson and I are going out. I hit the door to open it. Pastor
No, you have to leave. You have to go to class.
I said that. at the same time.
No, Mr. Bill, they gotta go to class. No. Oh, Mr. Bill. Well, hey, I got class today. No luck here. Go. I'm not gonna give as good of a vote.
Why is this? This is like, this is so
They're in there. I'm fine. Them two can be in here, but you know, all these extras, all these randoms. Hey, you're not in this class either. No, you're not. Uh-oh, Mr. Bill's from the league today.
Yeah. I wore a nice blue dress shirt.
It looks good. I know it's two-tone.
I put
You ain't never seen me this girl. I hope so. I hope so. Where's the
How are you in here?
Oh, you don't do that either. We just said this wrong. What? No. We all go in here. What?
Taylor.
Hey, yo. I'm gonna make myself in front of you. I gotta make
Actually, we can sit over there.
Okay, the affirmative on this side,
With the negative, bro. That's how we'll do it. Dear God.
You're in this class or just walking?
All right.
Okay.
There.
No, that's nothing.
Bro, what are y'all doing?
Yeah,
People. Get a life.
Hey, this is gonna affect the way I present. So.
Y'all are over there.
I know.
It's good, man. Hey, Mr. Bill.
All my team members here, and y'all are sitting where my debaters have to sit, so y'all have to, yeah. My debaters have to sit up here in these 4 seats, and then my audience is back here.
I'm ready. I'm fired up. I'm hot. I am fired up. Sure.
I'm scared out of my
Yes.
It's at 3 o'clock. It's just Let me go first.
Reed just flipped me off.
That's not true. That's invalid information.
Then air it out. I don't like all y'all in here.
Why is there so many people? Who's our
I got to stick it
y'all
on.
ready?
Stick it in a sack. I like it.
As long as it's not sharing.
Hey, Mr. Bill, do this.
Get the game, get the game.